Here's the two-step process for how to plan a topic cluster. So notice on the bottom tabs here, we have the master list of competitors' top keywords, the top of funnel informational intent keywords, the bottom of funnel commercial intent keywords, and the content calendar tab. So in this content calendar tab, you have a little outline of a topic cluster to remind you what you're looking at or aiming to achieve. So, as a reminder, pillar content is something like an ultimate guide, like the ultimate guide to X. Here's everything I know about Y, something to that effect. And the cluster content will be treated as supplementary articles that link to and from that central pillar article, that ultimate guide. So think of it as this being the article that drives all the traffic. And for someone who lands on that traffic, these are other articles that someone interested in this subject might want to read. So if I was writing the ultimate guide to podcasting, this might be, for example, the best podcast microphones. This might be, best headphones for podcasts. This might be, how to make your podcast studio look great. Something to that effect. Just don't forget that that pillar content is going to be the thing that feeds into and from all the cluster content. So because that pillar content is almost always informational intent, what we should do naturally is head to the top of funnel informational intent tab. What I recommend doing once you get here is trying to find something that you could theoretically rank for. So what I first do is I go to difficulty, I filter by condition, and I say less than or equal to 20 because that is something that I could feasibly rank for. And in this instance, it is already sorting by volume, but in the event it is not, be sure you're sorting Z to A because that's what shows you the high volume things. And because you want this to drive traffic for you, I think it makes sense to sort by volume. Now, what this does, so this will show you, is does not equal sign got searched 32,000 times on a 30-day basis, an average 30-day basis. But the $0 CPC indicates no one really, and especially only 33% of searches are clicking. It indicates that this is not a very good article to write. Someone's probably just looking for what the does not equal sign look like, and they move on. They're not going to click into anything. What is NFC tag reader? Someone probably just finds what that is and they move on with their lives. There's no CPC, there's no CPS. So this, I'm not sure if I would consider that one. However, what is JavaScript used for? That got searched on average 5,300 times. It's easy to rank for, and it has a high CPC, which is why it's indicated in green. This makes it look like a very good potential pillar article. So knowing that, I would copy and I would take it to the content calendar and I would say, my first article I'm going to write on week 1 is called What is JavaScript Used For? Or at least that's the keyword I'll be trying to rank for. It could be titled anything you want. So then you'd say the theme is going to be JavaScript. Title, I'll just say NA for now, and that is going to be our pillar content. Then what next? Now that we have the pillar content, we need to find complementary cluster content that could complement or could supplement this main what is JavaScript used for ultimate guide. So then you go back to informational intent. And what I would recommend doing is going to the parent keyword, filtering by condition. And then I would say, I only want to see terms that contain the word JavaScript. And then okay. And then suddenly we have a lot of informational intent terms that are easy to rank for and include the word JavaScript. So this could be a great tactic for you. Just find things that you could theoretically rank for. But what I recommend doing is actually removing the filter. Let's say I don't want to have any filters on difficulty because I know that I'm going to have a good chance at ranking for this pillar content. So what I really need now is interesting things for people to want to click into. How do you know what's interesting? Well, volume is an indicator of interest. What is JavaScript used for might be my pillar content. I might see how to learn JavaScript. sheesh, I will never rank for that 77 difficulty, but I'm not trying to rank for that. I'm just trying to find something that my audience might find interesting. And so what I'm going to do is copy how to learn JavaScript. I will take that to the content calendar and I will poke that right here in week 1, my second article. And I will say the theme will be JavaScript. My title I will be not available, and I'm going to call that cluster content. So now we've planned out 1 week, 2 articles. One of them is a pillar content, and one of them is a cluster content article. Going back to the informational intent, we can just go down the list. What looks good here? JavaScript certification. All right, let's copy that. Put that here. Week 2, article 1. Theme is still JavaScript. Title is NA, and that is cluster content. So you might want to say something to the effect of the 10 best places to get a JavaScript certification. And you can put that there. Or how I learned JavaScript as a developer. Something like to that effect, something that gets people interested. So now you just go back to the drawing board and you can say, all right, free JavaScript course. Maybe I can write an article about that. Let's say copy, content calendar, free JavaScript course. Theme, JavaScript. These are the 5 best free JavaScript courses your money can't buy. I'm going to call that cluster content. So now back to this, and keep in mind, we're only so far even touching the informational intent keywords. So there's also a whole other tab here that you can go to parent keyword, filter by condition, text contains JavaScript, hit OK. In this case, I had already done it. But now what you're looking at here is everything in this tab, including the word JavaScript. So you can sort by volume and see TypeScript versus JavaScript, or Java versus JavaScript. Maybe you know the difference. I don't. But let's see. Okay. Java versus JavaScript. 13,000 volume, easy to rank for, 1.2 CPC, in the bottom of funnel. Why not? What is Java versus JavaScript? Maybe you know the difference. You can write a great article about it. What's the difference between Java and JavaScript? Some more cluster content. And then you go back to bottom of funnel commercial intent, TypeScript versus JavaScript. There we go. And you can say JavaScript versus Python, 11 difficulty. And the best way to learn JavaScript. All right, here we go. Just like that, we have figured out 8 articles. So that currently we have it occupying 4 weeks, but if you were just trying to write 1 article a week, okay, fine. Then now we have 8 weeks worth of content. If you're writing 2 a month, you have just planned 4 months worth of content in just a few minutes, and it's all done by data. That's the best part about all this, is you feel confident in what you're doing. You decided on your pillar content. What is JavaScript used for? You've just decided on your cluster content. You can just go on down the list. You can call this done. You could call this cluster over with. This is 8. I mean, this looks pretty darn good. If you wanted to take it further, you could. If you wanted to keep writing JavaScript articles and linking in until you had 100 of them all pointing to this, what is JavaScript used for? Go for it. But this is how you would do it using data, and it would be super easy. So thanks for paying attention.